What's up, folks? Welcome back to Stream Catchers. It's your boy, AB, and
And I'm Jack. How you doing, bud?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Having a great day.
Good deal. Well, we are talking low-key here on this episode. We are halfway through the season. Before we give our synopsis and our bullet points and all that, what did you think of the episode?
It was good. It was the ending snuck up on me. I thought it was a little short. Yes, when the credits rolled, I was really surprised. I went back and looked. It was only 35 minutes, not counting the credits.
Wow, it was.
Yeah, but I mean, we covered a lot of ground in this one. We get to learn a little bit more about Sylvie, learn a little bit more about Loki as a character. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it was good. Falls in line with the other two. My biggest complaint is that there was no Mobius.
No idea. I know that was my thing too.
Yeah.
We'll hop into that for sure. But
What'd
I
you
agree.
think?
I did enjoy the episode rather. I will say this isn't a knock, but it was probably my least favorite of the three. I think I think no Mobius definitely felt like it took a little bit away. Time as well. I think I agree. It was a little bit shorter than I thought. But it did a lot that I liked. I like seeing the dynamic between Loki and Sylvie grow and develop. I like our little bit of a cliffhanger there at the end that we'll talk about. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot about both as well as the TVA. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. So I guess before we jump into our main discussion, we can do some quick hits. We're going to do a little bit different this week. We are going to assume that you listeners, viewers, whatever, have seen the episode. So we're just going to do a quick synopsis at the beginning and then do some bullet points and just kind of riff on the episode in general throughout this pod. But if you have not seen the episode, make sure that you either pause this or just understand that we are going to talk spoilers. So
Yeah, obviously huge spoilers. We're going to talk about everything that happens in the episode.
Massive spoilers. I don't know how you do a review these days without doing spoilers, at least in the long run.
I don't know. You'd only be able to talk about like the first 10 minutes and then it's like, oh, and some other stuff really cool happens.
Loki was there.
Yeah.
But really, it was a pretty straightforward episode, I thought. So it starts out pretty much where episode 2 leaves off. Loki is just pursuing Sylvie. They actually end up at the TVA. And then, of course, as Renslayer and a couple of Minutemen corner them, Loki grabs the TemPad out of Sylvie's pocket and takes them to a planet called Lamentis 1, which is in 2077, and it is an apocalypse. So there is a moon that's going to crash into the planet and blow everybody up. So really the bulk of the episode is Loki and Sylvie figuring out a way to get off the planet. The TemPad has been damaged, so they can't just use it, or it needs to be charged rather.
Right.
They can't use it to just pick another portal. So they're trying to figure out a way to get off the planet. There's an ark or a ship that is taking people off of the planet, and so that's their main goal. And of course, as we get to the end of the episode, this ark is destroyed, and our I guess heroes, I'll call them, are left on Lamentis 1 with seemingly no way up. So let's start from the top. You and I sort of called it. They began at the TVA.
Yeah, I didn't know if that would be. I don't want to say it was obvious, but it kind of falls in line with, that was the only thing that I could come up with why she would want to, displace all of the timekeeper or the Minutemen, get them out of the TVA so that she could come in.
Sure. Yeah, and I one of the parts that I like, of course, there's animosity there. They're trying to one up each other. And Renslayer pops in and tries to stop them, and Sylvie's like, "You can take him, or back off, or I'll kill him." She's like, "Go ahead." And
she doesn't care about him at all.
Yeah, at this point, it's like, we wanted you, so screw it, do whatever you want. And I don't know, it was a pretty cool start off, and then of course we end up on Lamentis 1, and I think my favorite part about that was just the aesthetic. I thought it was a really cool looking planet.
Oh, for sure, yeah, very beautiful looking planet. I mean, it was. Not a whole lot of vegetation. It's kind of a desert planet, but I mean, it's very colorful and beautiful, and the special effects of the apocalyptic, chunks of this planet hitting the moon or whichever it was.
Yeah.
Looks awesome. Very cinematic.
Definitely. You want to talk Sylvie real quick?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it was cool watching her kick ass in the TVA for a little bit. She tried to use her powers and they didn't work. That seemed to surprise her, which
Yeah.
I don't. I'm a little bit. I am surprised that she was surprised that her powers wouldn't work in the TVA.
Would you assume then that that means she's never been there then?
I I guess I don't really know. I mean, she's a variant, so and she would have had to have found out about the timekeepers somehow. So I guess I had been assuming that she had been taken in and escaped.
Yeah, that's kind of how I thought of it too. So maybe it's just a matter of she was surprised or forgot, but that was a weird moment where she was like, "Oh crap, what do I do?"
Maybe last time she was there, her powers did work, and they've changed. I don't know. Just spitballing, I guess.
Maybe, who knows? But she gets a name finally. I mentioned
Hmm.
last week that there was some credit in some country's version of Loki that listed her as Sylvie in the end credits. And
Hmm.
of course, now she is for sure Sylvie. And she doesn't like being called Loki. We have learned now, both second and this episode.
Yeah, she gets really irritated when Loki refers to her as a Loki.
Yeah, yeah, she does not like it, but it does. It does. She does confirm that she was a Loki.
Yeah, she has the line, "That's not who I am anymore."
Right, right. So, what did you make of that? Do you have any ideas of maybe what happened there?
So my deduction is that in her in her time in her world, Ragnarok has already happened, and she has kind of turned her back on Asgard.
Okay. She just, yeah, but she knows that she was adopted as well.
Right.
They had that conversation on the train where she's finding out about Loki, and he mentions that he was adopted. And spoilers, so are
Hmm.
you. And she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I knew." And he's like, "You did," you know. So she knows that she was adopted. Maybe that's her form of resentment. She's shedding that side of her because she didn't like the fact that she was adopted.
I don't know. I wish that we had gotten more information about her. I feel like when they were talking to each other on the train, Loki was kind of opening up to her a lot more than she was to him.
Yeah.
It kind of makes us, want to form deductions on what happened in her world, in her, in her version of Asgard. And my I think that she has similar experiences. I'm wondering if she also caused Ragnarok in her timeline, in her telling of the story, because I mean there are so many similarities between these two.
Mm-hmm.
She may not want to admit it, but she is or was a Loki, and when Loki discovered that there was um, no altering the timeline with Ragnarok, that was all of that was supposed to happen. Maybe that was supposed to happen in her timeline as well, and maybe there were fewer survivors or no survivors, and she's ashamed of it.
It's a really good theory, actually. I wonder if maybe she did cause Ragnarok, but in a different way than Loki. Maybe
Hmm.
he caused it because they needed to defeat Hela, and it was a
Yeah,
last resort. This is our last shot here. I wonder if maybe she just wanted to say screw it and just
and destroy Asgard
right.
completely and kill everybody, and now she regrets it. I mean, that's just what I'm thinking.
That's a pretty good theory. I'm sure we will learn more about that because you're
Yeah.
right. They didn't give a whole lot of her. I mean, she finally at the end of the episode opened up about her powers, and that was and it took the whole episode really for Loki to get that out of her.
Even then, it was just a little bit too, because
Yeah,
that's not even really about her as it's not about her character. It's about her abilities. I was hoping we'd dive more into her character.
yeah. It's still early. We're halfway
True.
through the show, the season rather. So I think that we are going to, and maybe it's this coming episode. I don't think that we've seen I mean, obviously we haven't seen the end of this partnership,
Hmm.
but I do expect it to unfold a little bit more in the next episode or two.
Yeah. Well, not to jump the gun and talk about the ending too quick, but You know,
Sure.
they're still, I mean, they're still trapped on this planet during this apocalypse. They have no way off. You know, that I can tell if their time pad is destroyed. The arc is destroyed. I don't know how they're gonna. I mean, the only thing that I could think of is Mobius figures something out and figures out where they are, so that he can rescue them.
That would be interesting. I don't think that's going to happen, just because it's an apocalypse and that would completely wash away the last episode.
What do you mean?
So the point of episode 2 is to find out that in an apocalypse you can do whatever you want and it won't matter. So it wouldn't set off a Nexus event. So the
Right.
fact that then in this next episode Mobius would just happen to pop in during an apocalypse, it would kind of
Well, okay, so I mean, we already established that, and now Mobius knows that Sylvie has been hiding out in apocalypses, and they know that they used the temp pad that she had stolen. So maybe they can infer, you know, maybe they can deduce that they went to a different apocalypse. I don't know how they'd ever figure out which one though, unless there's like a relay or a signature. You know, maybe the time pad tells the timekeepers where that specific device went. I mean, that's the only thing that I can go on. I really don't know how they're gonna survive without a time pad or a, you know, anything, any means of getting off this planet.
I have 2 theories.
Ooh, good. Lay them on me.
Theory 1, I think, is the most likely theory, and that is it's a time pad or the temp pad, whatever it is, whatever it's called, the temp pad. I don't think it's actually destroyed. I think that was an illusion that Loki just showed her because he needed to trust her or some reason, right? Because the whole time he's been playing illusions on her. He's been mischievous. You know, she knows that he can do what he can do. So why would he just tell her the truth at that pivotal point when you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like
I don't know.
I think that's more likely than my second theory. My second theory, and this is pretty far-fetched, and I won't take complete credit for this because I did get this idea from someone else thinking that Loki has a time stone.
Okay.
So there's the part where they're running in the city, and there's the building is falling on them, and Loki says, "I've got it," and he turns and he stops it. Now you could say that's just magic, but he doesn't stop it and throw it aside. It stops and goes back up, similar to how the end of Doctor Strange was, where the Hong Kong sanctum was coming down, and then Doctor Strange turns back time, and it just fixes itself. So I wonder if Loki snagged a couple of Infinity Stones, or maybe as many as he could get his hands on out of that drawer, and
So okay, so I definitely don't hate theory 2. I like it a lot. Something that I don't think we've talked a whole lot about, but we and I think that we should probably talk about it more, is we are getting a much better handle on what Loki is able to do with his magic, because I feel like up until this point in the MCU, we've only seen him project his appearance in you know, somewhere or in multiple places. And also take the form of other people.
Sure.
I think, and he can, you know, materialize his daggers and hide, you know, the Tesseract out of nowhere and pull it out of thin air. But we've seen all kinds of different magic, you know, with he's done his little hand fireworks. There was the scene in episode 2 where he reaches back and like summons the Roomba from the shelf behind him into his hand. He can do all kinds of stuff that we weren't privy to up until this point. So, but anyway, the other hole I want to poke in your theory is that anytime we've seen the time stone at work, we've seen a visual representation of like green auras and stuff, you know, affect the thing, or a green aura around the thing being affected.
I thought of that too, and the person who mentioned this, I think it was Screen Crush on YouTube. Shout out to Screen Crush, who brought up this theory. He said that that is for sure the case, but it's Loki, and we know he can do illusions and hide things, and so that could be their sort of way to disguise that. I do think that it's highly unlikely that he does have a time stone, but it would be an interesting way for him to sort of replay that moment over and over again, to where we messed up, rewind, and then just we're running towards the arc, and then messes up again. Crap, a Dormammu scene, really, just
Yeah,
infinite loop sort of thing, where he can do whatever he wants as many times as he wants, and
that'd be
make
a
it as
cool
many.
twist. I'm all for it. I think it's neat. I don't personally think that that's what's going to happen, but I like the idea of it.
I do too. I think the most likely scenario is the Tempad isn't actually destroyed, and they just need to recharge it, and they'll use it to get somewhere.
So I think that's a lot more likely as well. I didn't think of it myself, but I think that you're on the right track there. If Loki does reveal that the Tempad is intact, where do you think he'll portal them? Or do you think that, or maybe Sylvie finds out on her own and gets it back somehow, and portals them to another apocalypse for the next episode? Maybe we get another apocalyptic episode.
I think we kind of have to at some point, right? Because if that's the case, we know that that's the only place they can hide without setting off a Nexus event. And so unless they intend on going to just fight the TVA in episode 4 out of 6,
yeah,
I think that that's kind of going to have to be the case, where they go to another apocalypse. Although, to reference your background, we haven't seen that yet, and we know that's coming. So
true. Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen there?
Yeah.
I don't know where they go, because that's the thing. We're still pretty early in the show, and I don't think this is the end of this partnership. I think that they spent most of this episode really establishing those two, and they're growing to not just trust each other, but I think deep down like each other. And they have the whole love is like a dagger, and they're talking about what's your history like? Haven't met the right person yet. There's something there that I think that they're going to explore.
Yeah. I agree, and I like their dynamic. I like that it's already shifting. They were at each other's throats at the very beginning of the episode, and towards the end, when they're running through the streets as they're being destroyed, they're saving each other. They're looking out for one another. They're on the same side, and you can say that it's out of necessity, but we saw them on the train. They didn't have to have those conversations about each other's lives. They were genuinely interested in each other's experiences.
Right, and I think even just sort of the way Loki was talking to her when she first mentioned that she taught herself the mind control trick, he's like, "Oh, you taught yourself." Like, he was genuinely interested, just the way that he acted that out.
Yeah.
In a way that we really have not seen Loki, even when he's around Thor. We've never seen him with that sort of demeanor. So
yeah,
I do think that there's a lot that they're building with that. I don't think that Sylvie is the villain of this show.
I think it's too obvious. I think that would be too obvious a choice, and we already like her.
Yeah, I think I'm a little hesitant, because to go back to Falcon Winter Soldier, I didn't think that Carly was going to be the ultimate villain, and she ultimately was. But it just feels like Sylvie is more of a not a hero, anti-hero. And Loki himself as well, more of an anti-hero than villain. I think the Timekeepers, in a way, are the villains.
Yo, me too. That's what I was gonna say.
So yeah, what do you? So you thought of that. So what do you think is going to happen with that?
Well, we kind of called it early in the first episode, where we both agreed that that the Timekeepers are pushing a narrative, and we find out late in episode 3 that Sylvie lets fly that all of the people who work for the TVA were variants at one time. And so that I feel like that revelation is going to unravel the mystery of the Timekeepers and reveal that they are less than trustworthy.
I agree. And you know what I liked about that reveal too? Loki, the way he reacted. He's like, they don't know that. Like, he was genuinely concerned about them, specifically Mobius, I'm sure. But
I think he cares about Mobius. Yeah,
I think he does. I think he does too. And it really makes me love your theory from last week that Mobius is from the 90s.
Yeah, why not, right?
I think that kind of is the case at this point. I think it has to be.
I think that it just seems too ridiculous that he would be obsessed with jet skis in the way that he is, having never ridden one. I
Right.
mean, yeah, why would jet skis be on his radar at all if he was just a Minutemen person that had no agency in the
Right.
timeline?
And I think too, a bit more subtly than the jet skis is the fact that he keeps drinking that soda, the Josta. The fact that
Right.
that was a soda that was specifically in the 90s, that's the
Yeah.
only thing you see him drinking. I think that's another really good hint that he for sure is from the 90s. That was a fun theory. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, man.
What do you think about this theory? So I think the timekeepers are for sure bad, but I think that there's also like a hint of, I think that they're not going to be completely bad. I think that they have imprisoned.
Well, no one's 100% a dick.
Let me try this on you. I think that they have imprisoned Kang. And
Yes. Oh, I love that.
I think that the way that this show ends, Kang is going to or the timekeepers are going to be defeated somehow, and that's going to release Kang. I think he's trapped in the quantum realm in that little city that we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp because the timekeepers kept him there. We know that time moves to the quantum realm differently. I think that the timekeepers are going to be defeated somehow, and that's going to set Kang free.
Here I was not going to mention my Kang agenda this week.
Lay it on me, my guy.
So the only thing in my notes that I was going to mention about Kang is that what if Sylvie is an agent for Kang?
I don't think Sylvie's an agent for Kang. You want to know who I think is an agent for? Well, go ahead. You tell your. Why do you think that?
Well, it's not super established. It's a little bit flimsy, but we still don't know about Sylvie's motivations, why she wants to. The only reason, the only little tiny tidbit that we got about why Sylvie hates the timekeepers is that she's been hunted by them all her life, is what she says.
Hmm.
So I think that there's more than just her looking out for herself. I think it's more than just I don't think that she just wants to not have to look over her shoulder. I think that I think it's revenge or something. I don't know. I think that there's something else that drives her.
I like that. I like that better than my thing because that would make sense. Because you're right. We don't know what Sylvie's pure motivation is to.
Yeah.
We know that she wants to. What is it? Stop the timekeepers or something to do with being opposed.
She said that she doesn't want to overthrow them.
Right.
And she didn't. I mean, our Loki wants an audience with them.
We know she's gunning for them because who was the one C-20 when she abducted her? When they found her at the rocks cart, she was like, I told her where the timekeepers are. So. I like that. My thing was I thought Renslayer was an agent for Kang because in the comics apparently she is a love interest of Kang.
Renslayer is?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I think. So and I picked up on it last week where Mobius was a little jealous of this other analyst that she talks to. And maybe this is obviously, I don't think that if this was the case that the timekeepers would also have banished him somewhere. I don't think the two would meet very well, but it might be one or the other to where Kang is tied to Renslayer somehow as opposed to being tied to the timekeepers. I see you writing something down.
That would be, no, I'm just looking at my notes. I'm just making sure we cover everything we want to cover. That would be interesting. I hadn't thought about, honestly, I hadn't thought about Renslayer since last week. Because she played a much more pivotal part in that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to stew on that one. I don't know. I might have to rewatch this episode or last episode actually.
I know. I feel like I've been watching these episodes twice each, and I could definitely fit a third viewing in. Sometimes it feels like because it just feels like there's so much going on and so many little details we probably aren't picking up on that. You're missing out.
Yeah, well, it's going to be one of those hindsight things, right? After we watch the series all the way through, revelations in the last episode or second to last episode or whatever are going to make lines from the early episodes seem, have so much more foreshadowing than we ever thought possible.
Sure. That's how Marvel does it, though. They did that with like Age of Ultron, mentioning Endgame and that, and
Hmm.
all that stuff. Yeah, that's a Marvel thing to do for sure. We talked about before.
And I know you weren't, the biggest fan of early WandaVision, but have you watched the series over again?
I haven't. I was kind of waiting to do it before Doctor Strange comes out next year, but I do want to. Have you?
Yeah, I have. I highly recommend it because they're much more. There's much more foreshadowing than I thought there was, having only watched it once.
I know that there was a commercial that mentioned Nexus
Hmm.
in it, and that's supposed to be ties to Nexus events, and which Wanda would
Yeah,
be a Nexus event.
yeah.
So that
See, there's all kinds of good shit in there.
yeah, for sure. I know. I do need to rewatch it. It's not that I didn't. I'm sure that if I binged it rather than did it week to week, that was my problem. Was you're
Yeah,
getting one episode a week and it's not doing anything those first few episodes. But it
and there's
wasn't
all the expectations too.
sure. I'm sure it's much better on the second watch, knowing what we're gonna get. But um, what else you got? What else you got on there?
Let's see. I've got an early note that Sylvie can't use her magic on Loki, and they talk about how that's because Loki has a powerful mind. Do you think that that's all there is to that?
I do. I think that
Okay.
she mentions later in the episode that she can't do it on people that have strong minds. She can only do it on weak-minded people, which
Okay.
I think is pretty consistent with any sort of mind control powers throughout that power in anything, right? Not even just Marvel, but in any movie, right, or whatever. I think that's kind of a consistent thing.
I think that that's fair, and if that's that, that's fine. But I wondered if it was also a Loki trying to read the mind of another Loki. It's not working because
Ooh.
it's kind of where your own mind is. So I thought that maybe when she touched him, she kind of like nothing changed because it's her essentially. Like I mean, I know that their experiences are different, but their personalities align a lot.
That's a good theory. I didn't think about that. I like that. Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it'll have any impact on the show, but that's just something I thought of in the moment.
Sure. Um, have you done any research on Lamentus One?
No, I didn't think
I
to.
I did a brief. I don't have a ton to talk about on it, but I did a brief dive. It's a Marvel place, and apparently it
Sure.
has ties to the Annihilus story arc and the Phalanx story arc. I don't know if you know anything about either of those.
No.
No, I don't either. So maybe I shouldn't have even brought this
Okay.
up.
Well, I mean, that's that Marvel's been around so much, and they've had so many different arcs that I mean, you could rattle off 100 different Marvel story
Sure,
arcs, and I'd maybe heard of two or three of them. I'm not an avid comic book reader. I
sure.
have read some comics. I have done a whole lot more Wikipedia dives. Like
Oh
I've
yeah.
definitely read more information about the Marvel universe, the Marvel comic universe in Wikipedia than I have in comics. So that's just not what those ones aren't arcs I'm familiar with. So yeah, maybe
Yeah,
maybe we should look into it a little bit more.
maybe. Well, I know Marvel, like we just mentioned it. They like to do their breadcrumbs, right? And we saw it with Age of Ultron where they mentioned Wakanda for the first time. They showed up there, and then of course we see it later on in Black Panther. We saw in Falcon Winter Soldier Madripoor for the first time. A lot of ties to
Mm-hmm.
Wolverine and mutants that we may see
Mm-hmm.
pop back up. I think even the Shang-Chi trailer showed shots of what looked like Madripoor as well. So I would not be surprised if we do see Lamentus come back up down the road. Apparently, both Annihilus and Phalanx are major villains, sort of like a Thanos. Some say even like bigger, badder villains than Thanos. So we'll see. Maybe they come back, maybe they don't. But yeah, I agree. Maybe something to look into.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But at the same time, I don't want to be one of those fans who's so into the comics that when things don't play out that way on the big screen, that I'm disappointed because I you know uh, movies and TV is my medium, and I don't want to enjoy the MCU less because of outside because of source material.
right. You know what though? To their credit, they've done a very good job at sticking true to the source material as best as they can. Obviously, some things have been adjusted and fixed, and
Right. I mean, you have to subvert every audience's expectation too.
definitely, yeah, that's exactly so. But they have done. I mean, gone are the days of like Fantastic Four: Rise of Silver Surfer, where they have Galactus at the end, and he's just a giant cloud. Like that's a significant deviation from the source material, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the MCU since Iron Man has done a very good job at being true to the comics as best as they can, while also doing it in their own vision and creating something that's new.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have that much more. Is there anything else you had that
My
I don't
favorite
think
my favorite scene was the scene on the train when Sylvie wakes up from her nap and Loki's 3 verses into an Asgardian drinking song.
drunk
I loved
Loki
every
was
bit of that.
yeah. I
Yeah.
love when he's another and he throws it down.
Another. I just watched the first Thor like 2 or 3 nights ago and I lost it. That seems amazing. It's such a good idea. Such a
Yeah,
good callback.
that was a patient callback because I mean, you mentioned that
Yeah.
Thor was like what the fourth movie that they did, third or fourth, and
10 years ago. Yeah.
yeah, so that was a great callback. That was one of my favorite scenes as well. I like that a lot.
Let's see. What are
You
notes do I have? I wrote down a few things.
did you talk about what you think is going to be? I mean, I guess you mentioned Mobius, but did you have any other ideas of how they get off?
Not really. I feel like they have to be okay. So if operating under the assumption that the time pad is destroyed and so is the arc, I have no theory on how they're going to rescue themselves. I think that it's going to be an outside source that rescues them, and I want it to be Mobius. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I got.
That would be fun. I don't know. Maybe they come across a ship that no one else knew about.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they go back to that lady that had the gun early on in the episode.
Yeah.
Maybe
That
she's
told
got
him about the
away.
arc.
Yeah. Who knows? But
I don't
yeah, I
know.
think that's all I've got. I thought it was a good episode. I like
That'd be
what
an awkward situation, right? The Loki and Sylvie coming back to them. It's like, oh well, your lead was great. We took the train to the arc. It exploded. Now we're back. Do you have any other ideas?
right. Yeah, right. You don't happen to have like a Slave One in the back, a Millennium
Yeah.
Falcon, like X-wing something. Come on. Yeah. I enjoyed this episode a lot. I did see Tom Hiddleston mention the other day, I think before this episode dropped, he said that episodes 4, 5, and 6 are balls to the walls. That's not verbatim, but along those lines. So
Yeah.
I think that while I don't want to say underwhelmed, I was whelmed at this episode.
Okay.
But I think that it is going to significantly set the stage for the rest of this show, and I am looking forward to it because apparently we are in for a treat moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I think it's I hadn't tried to evaluate it with the first two. I like the dynamic that Loki and Sylvie are developing. I think I prefer the dynamic between Loki and Mobius. I think they're kind of a more fun
Yeah.
on-screen duo. But yeah, I mean, I'm already a little bit rooting for Sylvie.
Same. I am too. I'm rooting for Loki and Sylvie. I want to see that. I hope that this show doesn't end with her dead. I want to see her continue on in the MCU.
Yeah, I guess we haven't talked about the grand finale, what we expect. It's been hard to even see where it's going. But I don't think I'd be surprised if she dies. I guess she could maybe find her way back to a different point in the multiverse. I don't know. I don't know what her ending would be.
I have no idea. I do feel like this show is going to end with the downfall of the TVA, especially now that we know it's not. We've assumed, but now we know that it's not the be all end all of this multiverse, and that they definitely have an agenda, and
Yeah.
it's not all what it seems to be. I
Well,
do
I
feel
think
like there's going to be some like downfall of the TVA.
I feel like if that does happen, we're not going to see any TVA members or even the TVA. Like, I don't think we're going to see any TVA post Loki then.
Probably a la Shield, right? I mean, Shield hasn't been
Right.
around since Cap 2, so we'll see. That's what I think is going to be the end game, but no pun intended. But we'll see. You're right. We just don't have enough. I feel like there's still so much information that we haven't been given. I said at the end of episode 1, I was like, wow, they've gave us the villain right away and we have a clear direction. And I was wrong.
Mhm.
I was wrong.
Yeah, and it's been a fun ride so far, and
Mm.
I'm very much looking forward to next week's episode.
Yeah, shout out to Marvel for making me look forward to Wednesdays. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, little Loki hump day.
the lucky. All right, well, that's all I had. So hey, folks, thanks for tuning in with us. A little bit of a shorter one on the low-key front. So thank you for joining in. Let us know your thoughts. Give us your theories and how you enjoyed the episode, maybe what you think is going to happen moving forward. You know that the links to our social media accounts are in the show notes. We are on YouTube, all podcast platforms. So anything you can do as far as comments or feedback, we greatly appreciate it.
All right, we will catch you later.
Bye.